The Enchanted Princess by Ludwig Bechstein. Once upon a time, there was a very fine cabinet maker who lived with his wife and 2 sons. The elder son, Hans, was good and generous, but Henry, the younger one, was mean and selfish. But as so often happens, the foolish father loved the mean son best. The cabinet maker was known far and wide for the beauty and perfection of his work. People came from everywhere to buy his handsome chairs, sturdy chests, so that he made a good living and was able to keep his family in comfort. But one year great misfortune came to their land. The crops were ruined by floods and the cattle were killed off by disease. The cabinet maker soon found his purse empty, and also that many people owed him money. This was a most unusual situation, because in the past his customers had always paid quickly, but since he had no money left, he had tried to collect what was owed him, and so he went from house to house. "Alas, good sir," wailed one debtor, "my cows all died, and I am ruined." "Would that I could pay you," sighed another, "but my harvest rotted, and I am penniless." "Give me till springtime, I beg you," pleaded a third. At every house the poor man heard the same tale of woe, and much discouraged started for home as poor as before. On his way he stopped at the inn for a glass of ale, and while there he heard a traveller tell a strange tale. The traveller revealed that the king's daughter had been captured by a terrible sorceress and was doomed to lifelong imprisonment unless some brave youth could pass 3 difficult tests and free her. Whoever succeeded would marry her and receive a great fortune. Excited, the cabinet maker ran home to tell this story to his family. "I will free the princess and make you rich, father," said Hans, the elder son. "You are not clever enough for these difficult tests, nor are you handsome enough for the princess. Your brother is both clever and handsome." "I shall send him," said the cabinet maker. The next day he bid farewell to his favourite son, confident that Henry would succeed. Henry was just as confident and promised to send back a golden coach drawn by 6 white horses to bring his parents back to the castle when he finished his task. Then he rode off, feeling like a king already, and treating all whom he met in his way with haughtiness and cruelty. He threw stones at the birds who flew over him. He chased rabbits back into their burrows. When he saw an anthill and the ants busy at work, he brutally rode over it and crushed them. Farther on, he passed a pond where 12 wild ducks swam freely. Cunningly, he lured them to the bank and shot them. Later, he found a busy beehive and killed every bee just for his own amusement. At sunset, Henry arrived at the magnificent castle where the princess was imprisoned. He knocked roughly at the door, and when no one came at once to open up, he pounded on it impatiently and then kicked it. Finally, a little old woman with a lined face and grey hair opened a window above and asked his business. "I've come to free the princess, old hag," shouted Henry rudely. "Hurry up and let me in so I can get the job over with and receive my reward." Now, my son, don't rush things," said the old woman. "Tomorrow is another day. Return here at sunset and don't be late." She then slammed the window shut, and Henry could do nothing but wait impatiently till morning. When sunrise came, the old woman was ready for him with a basket full of tiny seeds, which she scattered far and wide over a nearby meadow. "Pick up every seed and put them in this basket," she said. "I shall return in an hour's time to see your handiwork." Henry saw no need to tire himself by picking up seeds, So he simply rested for an hour. When the old woman returned, she found the basket still empty and Henry asleep. Not good, not good at all, she fumed, and then drew 12 gold keys out of her pocket and threw them into the deep dark moat of the castle. Find all the keys, she said, and bring them back to shore. I'll return in an hour, and you'd better have the job done. Henry laughed, and once again he did nothing but rest. Not good, not good at all, scolded the old woman when she returned. Next she took Henry by the hand and led him to the great hall of the castle, where they found 3 figures, all heavily veiled in white muslin. Choose one, my son, said the old woman, but choose carefully. I choose the one on the right, answered Henry quickly. The figures threw off their veils, and in the middle sat a beautiful princess with a terrible dragon on each side of her. The dragon on the right seized Henry and threw him out of the window into the bottomless moat of the castle. The poor cabinet maker waited anxiously for more than a year, and still his beloved son did not return home. When Hans, the other son, begged to go, his father refused. Silly boy, he said harshly, how could you succeed if your clever brother has failed? So Hans crept out of the house without permission and went off to find the castle of the Enchanted Princess. The journey took longer for Hans than for his brother, because good and gentle Hans stopped to make friends with all the wild creatures he met along the way. He did not throw stones at the birds, and so they sang to him with their sweetest songs. Hans was never too busy, too tired, or too intent on his journey to be kind and thoughtful to all he met. When he came to the ants, busily rebuilding their anthill, he did not disturb them, and even stayed to help. Ducks were swimming on the pond, and he called to them on the bank, not to kill them, but to feed them crumbs. Beautiful wildflowers grew by the path as he approached the beehive. He picked some for the bees to help them with their honey making. When he came to the castle, he knocked softly on the door. The old woman immediately opened her window and asked him what he wanted. If I may be so bold, gentle mistress, Hans said politely, I would like to try to free the princess. You may try, she answered, but if you fail 3 tests, it will cost your life. I already know the dangers, he replied, but it is my fondest wish to succeed. Please, tell me what I must do. Once again the old woman scattered the basket of seeds and told Hans she would be back in an hour to inspect his work. Hans worked without stopping, but the basket was not even half full when the hour was nearly over. Suddenly, a swarm of ants crawled over the field, and each one carried a single seed to the basket. When the old woman came back, the basket was full. That's good, she said approvingly. Then once more she threw 12 gold keys in the deepest part of the moat. After ordering Hans to recover every key within the hour, she went away again. Again Hans was in despair at his task. Time after time he dove in, but he could not find a single key. Then suddenly 12 wild ducks flew by and dove deep into the water. When they came up, each was carrying 1 gold key. That's good too, murmured the old woman when she saw the keys. Next she led Hans into the castle. The 3 mysterious veiled figures were sitting in the great hall. Choose one, but choose carefully, the old woman warned as she went away. Hans looked helplessly at the figures and dared not make his choice. Suddenly, through an open window, a swarm of bees flew. They circled and buzzed around the veiled figures. They smelled pitch and sulphur at the mouths of the dragons, but coming from the middle figure was the scent of their own honey, which the princess loved to eat. "Choose the middle one," they buzzed in Hans' ear. "I choose the middle one," said Hans loudly and clearly when the old woman returned. Instantly, figures threw off their veils, and the terrible dragons flew furiously out the window. The princess was free at last. She smiled at the young man who had rescued her and put her hand in his. Kind Hans did not forget his aging parents. He sent a golden coach drawn by 6 white horses to bring them to the castle where he and his princess were married in splendor. All of them lived happily and without fear of evil dragons ever after.